meisten von euch, vor allem den Älteren unter euch, wird Billy Meier sicherlich noch ein Begriff sein. Bekannt ist er vor allem in der Kontaktler-Szene und in der UFO-Literatur der späten 70er, Anfang der 80er Jahre. Mir war er natürlich immer ein Begriff, allerdings nie als Zeitreisender, und das ist das Merkwürdige an dieser Geschichte. Immer auf der Suche nach spannenden Zeitreisethemen für euch in den Tiefen des Dark Webs habe ich etwas Seltsames entdeckt, und zwar die Originalaufnahmen des Lügendetektortests von Billy Meier, als auch die Aufnahmen der Zeitmaschine und die Fotos, die er während seiner Zeitreise ins Zeitalter des Präkambriums bis ins späte Pleistozän vor 100 Millionen Jahren machte. In diesem Video zeige ich dir nicht nur die Bilder der Dinosaurier und längst ausgestorbener Pflanzen, ich zeige dir auch Bilder seiner galaktischen, außerirdischen Freunde, die ihm die Zeitreise erst ermöglichten und von weit, weit weg aus einem fernen Sternensystem der Plejaden stammen. Das folgende Video setzt sich aus 2 verschiedenen Teilen zusammen, die zu verschiedenen Zeitpunkten Anfang der 80er Jahre aufgenommen wurden. Im ersten Teil zeige ich dir den Lügendetektortest und die Laboranalyse des Ton- und Filmmaterials der Zeitmaschine bzw. des Strahlenschiffs und im zweiten Abschnitt des Videos die Originalaufnahmen der Dinosaurier und des Sonnensystems während seiner Zeitreise zu den Anfängen des Planeten. Außerdem wirst du Aufnahmen seiner Freunde aus den Plejaden und von unbekannten Objekten in unserem Sonnensystem sowie Aufnahmen des Planeten der Außerirdischen zu sehen bekommen. Bleib also dran und vergiss nicht, das Video mit deinen Freunden auf WhatsApp zu teilen und natürlich meinen Channel zu abonnieren. Da das sehr alte Originalvideo sehr schlechten Ton hatte und teilweise durcheinander gesprochen wird, habe ich es diesmal, anstatt es zu synchronisieren, mit deutschen Untertiteln versehen. Ich bitte daher um Verständnis, aber so kommt das Originaltape nun mal am besten für euch rüber.
Is your name Edward Meyer?
Yes.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Yes.
Are you wearing a shirt?
Yes.
Do you live in Switzerland?
Yes.
Have you taken photographs of Pleiadian spacecraft?
Yes.
Do you ride your moped?
Yes.
Do you receive your mail at Schmidt-Rudy?
Yes.
Did you fake the photographs taken at Ober-Sadeleg with a model suspended... Wait till the answer, or wait till the question is finished. Suspended by a string.
No.
Let's do that one more time, okay? Wait till I finish. Do you live in Switzerland?
Yes.
The tape is taken back to be analyzed by Bob Phelan, a former criminal investigator with the Sheriff's Department of Colorado and a specialist in lie detection.
Was also a yes answer. Number 3, do you live in Switzerland? Yes, he lives in Switzerland. There's enough stress here to indicate that probably isn't where he prefers to live, or he's lived someplace else. Question 4 was the first relevant question you asked him, is have you taken the photographs of spacecraft? His answer was yes. He's being extremely forceful, though not deceptive. And my opinion on that particular question is that he's being as truthful as possible. Number 7 was the second relevant question you asked him, and he answered right on top of the question. And the person asking the question had asked him to answer the question again, and then he asked the question again. The stress levels between the two diminished the second time that the question was asked, which is not indicative of deception, because stress builds in a deceptive pattern. It doesn't diminish. If it was a deceptive answer, the stress would then increase, not decrease. Now, something was extremely interesting to me was the 8th question you asked him on, do you drink coffee? And for some reason, he's more stressful on the statement about coffee than he is about the picture of the spacecraft.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because about 3 days before we tested Meyer, he promised his wife he'd stop drinking coffee, but we noticed he'd been sneaking a few occasionally.
Okay, that could probably be the account for it then.
Phelan reviews the tape several times. He could find no evidence of deception in the statements about Meyer's experiences. Much of Meyer's film has been lost or stolen, but the remaining sequences are, as promised, the most astonishing ever released. In one demonstration, the beam ship flies around a tree, which can be seen to sway in the backwash. Once again, in slow motion. Even slower. Later, Semyasi brings a new beam ship to pose for Meyer's cameras. A variation quite unlike anything he has seen before. She explains, as best he can understand it, the function of the spheres for propulsion of the craft in interstellar travel. The sound of the new beam ship shows marked differences to the sounds of the other variation craft. Meyer tapes these as well.
We're showing this throbbing, modulating beat that we hear on the tape. This beat, or modulation, occurs at these frequency peaks. Each one of these peaks is a discrete frequency. If you wanted to give a visual display, let's say we're talking a motor. It could be a motor, a shaft of a motor, with 4 magnetic poles or coils around this shaft. The curious thing about this, it changes from 4 to 5, 6, 7, all the way up to a number that is difficult to discern. At a certain point, you're going to generate a certain amount of magnetism. And then later on, you want a stronger field. Well, you're going to select 8 fields. All right, now you're going to hear 8 pulses on the tape. And then later on, you want a stronger field. You can select 16, 32.
Is there anything unusual about this?
I would think it's highly unusual. I don't really see any application for it, with the exception of, like I say, either generating a magnetic wave of some sort for laboratory purposes or maybe in this case, propulsion.
Without ever having seen a picture of the new beam ship, Shellman has drawn a representation of the spheres and offered an explanation of their function. The tapes hold still another surprise.
It seems to be a level change very steadily in around 5 to 10 cycles per second, which happens to be in the area of the natural magnetic resonance of Earth, also called the Schumann resonance.
Is that significant in any way?
It could be. It's just interesting to note the correlation there.
The peculiar correlation is something strange.
I mean, why would the correlation be there?
Yeah.
Meyer says the beam ships can ride the magnetic field of the Earth. Rognerud's findings seem to bear this out. Going back to computer models of previous beam ships, simulation of the revolving lights reveals a kind of pulsing that matches the varying frequencies. Analyst Jim Delatoso is convinced that the sound and light frequencies are related. The phenomena might also explain the ability of the beam ships to suddenly disappear from sight and just as suddenly reappear. In this 8mm film, the beam ship at the top of the frame disappears and appears again almost simultaneously, just above the slope of the hill. When the film is examined, the beam ship disappears and appears in the same frame, which means that less than 1/18 of a second has elapsed.
his first flight around our solar system. Here's a picture of Mars. By the way, this is not a professional tape. As you can see, these pictures are in a picture album, and I've just got my camcorder out, and Wendell and I are flipping through the pictures, so this is not a produced tape for you to look at, so it'll probably never be on the market, but at least you get a chance to see some of these pictures. This is Mars just from a different direction with the sun very bright on it. Now, here is Mars, but here's one of these satellites. It's in orbit around Mars, made on Earth, unannounced, and is in orbit. This is the spring of 1976, and this device is in orbit around Mars. I don't know exactly who made it or who put it up there. Here's another one. This is Mars again, and here's the light panels, solar panels, and the satellite equipment in orbit around Mars again. This is a different one. This is a dust storm on Mars. Billy wanted to get close and try to take pictures of artifacts. You've all heard about some of the Sidonoplasma on Mars, about the face on Mars that Richard Hoagland and other people have been looking into. Billy published a paper back in the 70s talking about that. There was a race of people lived on Mars. They had a terrible catastrophe about 186,000 years back. At the time, there was about 40 million people killed on Mars, and they're all gone now, of course. So there were societies there, and we will find quite a few remains of their civilization once we get up there. Here he's on board one of their large motherships. This is the side or the edge of a saucer that was parked inside as he was walking by it. Here's Jupiter. Here's the mothership in orbit. They're flying into it to go aboard. It was 17 miles high and about 10 miles in diameter. He spent 3 days on it. They went to different places in our galaxy to show him around. This was the craft that was right in front of him as they were flying into it. He took a picture of that one. Here, again, is back at Mars. These aren't in any particular order. Here's another object in orbit around Mars, and look, here's an American flag on it. So there's a couple of things that they put up there that the military's put up that we don't know about. This is a picture of Billy in a suit. He's on a prehistoric planet to see the dinosaurs. He's got a breathing apparatus on. This is a Pleiadian man, and they've stepped outside of the ship so he can see the animal life on this prehistoric world. Got his picture taken. This is the top of the mothership. There's windows, but there was nobody in the windows. A prehistoric Earth. They're back in time. That's Earth in the background. That's a moon in front of Earth, and he's looking over the surface of another moon. At that point, they told him there were 2 moons in orbit around planet Earth. We think we're about 60 million years back. Here's another picture over the surface. Neither one of those moons is currently the moon that's in orbit now. The moon that's in our orbit now, they say, has only been there around 5 million. Here's the dinosaur pictures. Billy's back inside the ship, and there's a viewing screen in the craft, and he says he's taking these pictures. Here's our first dino. He's got kind of gold-brown skin, got large hind legs, short forelegs, and a head that looks kind of amphibian, like a vegetarian type. Here's the second one. There's a bird here apparently dropping some food or something. Is that Charles? Charles dropped his food. This one's pretty hard to see. Here's the head of some sort of creature crashing through some bushes here. It's hard to tell. I know it's probably hard to see these anyway from back there. But there's a bird. There's his eyes, some pretty nasty looking teeth. And the last picture after this one is the strangest of all. It's a plant that has an insect head. Billy calls it a plantum. They were trying to explain to him how the evolution of different life forms goes. How, for instance, here's a plant life when the plants are the food kingdom of the world. When the plants evolve to a certain level of evolution, then these lower order forms, here's a small head, and this head is part of that plant. There's these 2 little eyes. It's an insect, the beginning of insect life on the planet when the food kingdom has evolved high enough. There are 7 different stages, they say, of spiritual energies or creational energies on a planet that create the many different kinds of life forms. There's a transition from one kind to the next. Ours is the 7th or the last one. We have to wait until the animal kingdom has raised the evolution of the body material high enough so our cycles can start.
Was glaubst du? Hat Billy Meier wirklich die Wahrheit gesagt? Ist er in der Tat bis ins späte Präkambrium gereist und hat bis heute noch Kontakt zu den Außerirdischen der Plejaden? Oder ist er nur ein ganz cleverer Betrüger, der aus welchen geheimnisvollen Gründen auch immer jeden Lügendetektortest bestand? Und merkwürdig, wieso taucht gerade jetzt dieses bereits 40 Jahre alte Tape in den Tiefen des Dark Webs auf? Kann das ein Zufall sein? Ich denke nicht. Und somit verbleibe ich wie immer mit den Worten seltsam, aber so steht es geschrieben.